elexr, Understanding Reports. Click on the Reports button once you log into the elexr app. You will see multiple buttons on the next screen. Click on the User Reports button.
elexr, Comparison Reports.
Click on the Comparison Report button on the next screen. Change seconds to minutes by clicking on the drop-down menu. You will only see one date if you have only tested once. If you have tested multiple times, you will see multiple dates on this screen. Select 2 or more appointment dates to compare the reports. Next, click on the Confirm button. Heart rate zones. This is the first section of the report screen. You will always receive a Smart Zone training prescription, which is your steady state training. You will either receive a MIT or HIT training. After the 3rd or 4th test, the app will allow you to do SIT instead of HIT based on your physiology, how you interact with the app, and the milestones that you achieve. LIT Zone is Light Intensity Interval Training. SMART is Smart Zone Training. MIT Zone is Moderate Intensity Interval Training. HIT Zone is High Intensity Interval Training. SIT Zone is Sprint Intensity Interval Training. You can see the variation in heart rate as you go from lower intensity to higher intensity training. Scroll down the screen to view heart rate zones for different test dates. In the next section, you will see the resting lactate level in your blood as you are sitting, not moving, on the exercise bike. This gives you a snapshot of what your lactate level was before moving. You will be able to see the resting lactate levels on different dates. Higher lactate level is found to be associated with metabolic dysfunction, so lowering lactate level is beneficial to health. You will notice that the resting lactate trend lowers over time when you follow the elexr prescriptions. Heart rate recovery. HRRC is the rate of change in beats per minute of your heart rate as you recover from interval training. For example, if you received a HIT prescription, your rate of recovery will be calculating once you leave HIT zone until you recover to Smart Zone. In this image, it took a minimum of 28.05 beats per minute to recover from HIT zone to Smart Zone. The app monitors for HRRC slowing down between intervals, which may indicate increased stress or strain and fatigue, requiring longer recoveries or reducing interval intensity. MFI, Metflex Index. You will see your Metflex Index in this section of the report screen. As you can see in this example, the MFI has gradually improved during the 3 tests. This is an optimal trend that one can look forward to see after each test. In the graph version of this, you will see a line going upwards, which indicates gradual improvements in MFI over time.
In this section of the reports, you will see where your MFI falls on the MFI scale that ranges from 1 to 100. If you are physically active, there is a good chance that your MFI will fall between 30 and 40. If you are inactive, your MFI may fall below 30, which is considered to be a critical threshold. Very few people actually make it over 100. Please read the description of MFI as it is an important concept in understanding the state of metabolic health. Description. The Metflex Index is an objective measure of how efficient your cell's mitochondria utilize fat as primary energy resource relative to the power in watts that you can generate during an exercise test. A low Metflex Index indicates reduced use of fat for energy, lower power output relative to your BMI, and poor lactate clearance capacity, while a high Metflex Index indicates greater utilization of fat for energy, higher power output relative to your BMI, and a better lactate clearance capacity.
BMI, Body Mass Index. Scroll down the screen to view your BMI on different test dates. In this example, you will see that the BMI is trending downwards and is usually considered positive. Please read the description on BMI to understand what is your BMI compared to the normal standards. BMI has some limitations, and an actual diagnosis of overweight or obesity should be made by a health professional. Obesity is associated with heart disease, certain types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, and other health risks. The higher a person's BMI is above 25, the greater their weight-related risks. Watt heart rate. Relationship between your heart rate and power. In this section, you will see the graphs that illustrate your heart rate relative to watt or the power produced by your body while pedaling the exercise bike. In this example, the heart rate for the first test is labeled as heart rate 1, second and third tests are labeled as heart rate 2 and heart rate 3 respectively. Notice that the heart rate 3 is shifting downwards relative to heart rate 1 in the graph for the same amount of power. This is an excellent cardiovascular response to the training because the heart does not have to work as hard for the same amount of effort put in. Heart rate lactate. The graph in this section illustrates heart rate relative to the lactate level. Example, first test is labeled as heart rate 1. Second and third tests are labeled as heart rate 2 and heart rate 3 respectively. Note that the blue line begins to go up between 90 and 100. However, the red and the yellow line starts trending up only after 150. This is because of the significant improvement between the first and the third test. During the second and the third test, the lactate that was building up was also used up by the body for a longer period of time. Measuring the lactate level relative to the watt is a very important part of the test as it indicates how our cells are getting more efficient at metabolism and how much fat a body is burning during light and moderate intensity efforts. Heart rate recovery, HRRC reports. The HRRC summary graph demonstrates the max and the min HRRC of a user while exercising over a period of time. Generally, we see improvements in HRRC after following the elexr prescriptions over time. Then we see steady to slow improvements in HRRC to a point where it stabilizes itself based on the stress the body is experiencing. You can see the highest and the lowest HRRC in the HRRC box. Example, the min HRRC was 28.05 and the max was 43.87 per minute. This is a good range as it falls between the range of 30 to 40, which is considered a healthy range. Workout summary. The workout summary chart shows the time spent in each training zone. Red bars indicate the time spent in Smart Zone. Blue bars indicate the time spent in Lit Zone. Yellow bars indicate the time spent in Mid Zone. Green bars indicate the time spent in Sit Zone. Smart training should generally cover 80 to 90% of the total workout time. Interval trainings are faster and higher intensity, so the time spent on it is not going to be too long compared to the smart training.
elexr, user profile. Click on the back arrow on the top left corner of the screen to return to the home screen. On the home screen, click on the Reports button. Click on the User Reports button. Next, click on the User Profile button. You will see your name, age, and the date of the last appointment on the next screen. BMI, Body Mass Index. Scroll down the screen to view your BMI. Note, your BMI is in this box. Please read the description on BMI to understand what your BMI is compared to the normal standards. Description. BMI has some limitations, and an actual diagnosis of overweight or obesity should be made by a health professional. Obesity is associated with heart disease, certain types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, and other health risks. The higher a person's BMI is above 25, the greater their weight-related risks. Metflex Index. Scroll down the screen to view your Metflex Index. In this section of the reports, you will see where your MFI falls on the MFI scale that ranges from 1 to 100. If you are physically active, there is a good chance that your MFI will fall between 30 and 40. If you are inactive, your MFI may fall below 30, which is considered to be a critical threshold. Very few people actually make it over 100. Please read the description of MFI as it is an important concept in understanding the state of metabolic health. Description. The Metflex Index is an objective measure of how efficient your cell's mitochondria utilize fat as primary energy resource relative to the power in watts that you can generate during an exercise test. A low Metflex Index indicates reduced use of fat for energy, lower power output relative to your BMI, and poor lactate clearance capacity, while a high Metflex index indicates greater utilization of fat for energy, higher power output relative to your BMI, and a better lactate clearance capacity. Scroll down to view the heart rate zones. Heart rate zones. Please note your SMART zone. This is your optimal heart rate for burning stored fat. Resting lactate. Lactate level is an important biomarker in understanding your body's capacity to utilize fat as a primary source of fuel. Please note your resting lactate level in this section. The optimal heart rate for interval trainings are also listed in the heart rate zones box. Lit zone is light intensity interval training. Smart zone is smart zone training. Mid zone is moderate intensity interval training. Hit zone is high intensity interval training. Sit zone is sprint intensity interval training. Scroll down the screen to view the HRRC summary and workout summary. Click to enlarge to view time spent on smart training zone and interval training zones. Watt lactate heart rate. The watt lactate heart rate graph demonstrates the relationship between all three components of your SMART testing. This demonstrates how your body responds to a gradual increase in metabolic stress and intensity of exercise. Observing your heart rate relative to the lactate curve gives you feedback on how hard you can work before your body has a more difficult time managing the stress. The longer the lactate curve stays flat, as in the blue watt lactate curve at the bottom of the screen, the better you can manage metabolic-related stress. Watt heart rate graph. The watt heart rate graph shows you how hard your heart was working at each stage of your SMART test. Typically, you will see that your heart rate gradually increases with each increase in the intensity of exercise. The heart rate lactate graph at the bottom of the screen is similar to your watt to lactate curve mentioned earlier. Here you can see how your lactate behaves relative to how hard your heart is working. The goal here, like the watt lactate curve, is to develop a longer, flatter line before the curve turns upward. elexr, exercise reports. Click on the Reports button on the home screen of the elexr app. Click on the Exercise Reports button. Select the year and the month. The app will default to the current year and the month if you are a new user. On the next screen, you will see small colored boxes indicating the days you worked out. Click on the colored box to view the report for that day. You can also scroll down the screen to select a specific type of workout you completed on a particular day. On the next screen, you will see the results of the workout for a particular day, including the duration of the workout and the type or types of workout completed on that day. Scroll down the screen to view additional details. Heart rate, minimum heart rate during the workout and maximum heart rate during the workout. Intervals, number of intervals completed during the workout. Time in zones. This is the amount of time spent in each zone during the workout. HRRC, heart rate recovery. Minimum and maximum indicate the rate of recovery to the SMART zone from an interval, i.e. how many heartbeats per minute were required for you to recover during intervals.